Thank you.
So before we introduce our second group of witnesses, for people who are viewing, I would like to provide a trigger warning. We will be discussing experiences related to suicide and grief, and this may be triggering to viewers with similar experiences. For all witnesses and for a member of parliament, it is important to recognize that these are difficult discussions. For our witness, if you do not feel comfortable at any point, please let us know. We can pause our committee for you. I would like to make a few comments in introducing our next witnesses. As individuals, Mr. Ken Bennett, warrant officer, retired, welcome. Mr. Brendan Hynes, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you for your service. And from the United Federation of Canadian Veterans, Mrs. Diane Hill-Rose, peer supports advocate. So we will be starting with each of you for 5 minutes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, then we'll open the floor for a member of parliament. And as it was unanimously approved, we will be extending our committee by 15 minutes. I hope you are available. I just want to make sure, because member of parliament can be available, but you are, our witnesses today. So I wanted to make sure you are available to extend by 15 minutes. Thank you very much for that. So Mr. Bennett, for 5 minutes, let's start with you, please.
Okay, so do you want me to do like an introduction of myself? So I spent almost 28 years in the service. I started off in the Army. I did most of my career in the Air Force, but I spent a little bit of time, 30 months attached to ships, taking care of seeking helicopters. So I saw a glimpse into all three elements of the Canadian Armed Forces. I'm a father of 2, a grandfather of 6, and a great-grandfather of 1. And I was triggered when I read the email requesting for volunteers to come and testify about suicide among veterans and serving members. I was triggered because I'm one, and I never told my story. Not to my psychiatrist after I was diagnosed with PTSD. Not to my family. My wife is my support person. She stayed over in the hall. She doesn't want to hear me speak about this. Several people that worked with me and under me during my career, far too many have committed suicide or attempted. People that I played sports a lot in my early career, and guys that were fantastic athletes and had families that had seen or experienced too much, had committed suicide. I didn't understand it, and I still don't, even though it was me. I didn't make an attempt, but I knew how I was going to do it. I had considered it, and I'm so grateful for my Indigenous ways that helped heal me, to my support in my community, and I can't say family, although they knew all about my PTSD. They didn't know about the suicide, and I've watched as the people I worked with and that I knew throughout my career have become addicted to different drugs as a solution, which I believe maybe if it took a soldier off fentanyl and put them on marijuana, but a lot of those soldiers were never marijuana users, and now they're addicted, or they have to do it all day long. And so it didn't fix the problem, it dumbed it down, maybe. That's only how I feel personally. it's hard, you know, but I think that we deserve more help and more information as we're serving, as we go through so many of the tragic things that we experience and that we're not prepared for, or the stigma is, well, he's taken out of the game because or she because they're a weekend warrior or don't have the heart to continue. There was no understanding among our peers or those that we worked for. I feel that there's a certain prejudice to it all, and I believe that only through conversation can we come to a better solution, so that we may not stop it, but we can slow it down. We can save one, maybe we can save 100, but we got to get outside of this box of throwing money and drugs at the situation, because the numbers are going up, especially in the First Nations or Indigenous communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bennett. Thank you for sharing today. Mr. Hynes, for 5 minutes.
All right, I'll be moving quickly because I got a big mouth and not a lot of time. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. 158 Canadian soldiers killed in Afghanistan. Active service member suicides rates equaled that in 9 years. Of course, we don't know about veteran suicides because there's no reliable numbers in Canada. However, the estimate is 1.5 to 2 times the estimated number of veteran suicides compared to civilian suicides, despite military members having screening, financial stability, employment, medical care, a strong peer group, mental health services, and lower addiction rates than civilians, which are all predisposing factors for mental health crisis and suicide. So don't tell me there's not a crisis. 0, the number of veteran and military hospitals in Canada. Not 1. We got clinics. Good old 10 to 3. That's it. 0 is also the number of brain scans I had from any veteran service provider, despite being released from the military for traumatic brain injury. Thank God for organizations like Project Trauma Support and Concussion Legacy Foundation Canada. But how many members are being treated for PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury? It's not a disorder, it's an injury, but never investigated for TBI. We've been briefing this since 2009. 2 to 3 months was the wait time for VAC settlement in 2006. 1.5 years is the wait time now, despite better technology, more studies, more departments, and more employees. Once is the number of times I presented to the military emergency mental health care because I was suicidal. Incidentally, they were closed, but they had a nice sign requesting that I go home and call a certain number that they had posted. Not bloody useful. 0 is the number of proven supplements and nootropics prescribed to veterans with TBI or PTSD. Not 1. Ironically, 90 is how many grams of weed per month a veteran is eligible for with no questions asked, despite its proven impact on nervous system dysfunction. Psychedelic treatment coupled with counseling proven to be of benefit for those suffering both TBI or PTSD. Good luck. You're on your own. You're better off to be sponsored by an American charity, as some of our SOF members were, and flown to the U.S. 7 is how many agencies veterans have had to wade through for health coverage, rehabilitation, or education. A debacle. It should all be under VAC. Stop shuffling things around under different shells of money. 3 is the number of agencies veterans must deal with regarding their pay. Again, it's not rocket appliances, it should be 1. 64 is the percentage of my pay that I receive. 90 is the percentage of my pay that the government claims I receive. My name is Brendan Hynes. I served our country for 5 years as a reservist, 26 as a full-time member. I was an IED operator and a breacher instructor with both the combat engineers and special operations. My exposure to blast-induced overpressures resulted in my medical release due to traumatic brain injury, though VAC labeled that as CTE, which oddly is impossible to diagnose in the living. Despite a litany of smaller injuries, my brain injury was the worst. It changed my life and tried to steal my life from me. My balance was so bad I had to sit in the shower. I couldn't stand with my eyes closed without falling over. I've had headaches daily for several years and often wake up feeling hungover without consuming a single drop of alcohol. If I push myself too hard or I'm not mindful of my sleep, diet, and life routines, I again become symptomatic. The worst is the effect on my mental health. I spent years stuck in neutral. Little caused emotion in me, and when it did, it was generally frustration or anger. My panic response was heightened. I barely slept, and when I did, it was fitful. I occasionally acted recklessly to see if I could feel something. I rarely could. I was failing at both work and home. I had panic attacks. In 2019, I took my little girl's Christmas shopping. I forced myself through time at a busy mall, until finally escaping to her car on the journey home. All day I'd thought about what I felt I had to do. As I drove home, my girls sang Christmas carols in the back seat. In the front, I had tears streaming down my face. I thought of how I had failed them, how much I'd missed them. I had a plan to end my life, and to do it so there would be no horror for my family. I planned to leave directions with 911 for body recovery. To those of you who have not experienced this, it's lunacy, absolute insanity, and I agree it was. But at that time of pain and panic, it was the only way to stop being hurt and confused. I thought and hoped it would be like a deep sleep. To the members of this committee, I thank you for your time. You've seen a lot of anger, frustration from the veterans. It's warranted. Every goddamn bit of it. We have met, shared, briefed, advocated for brain injury medication, for mental health care, and a streamlined and coherent system. What have you given us? You have applied just bullshit bureaucratic band-aids. Nothing of substance, no improvement, no ease of navigating the system. Your military and veterans face a degree of abandonment that causes more loss of life and more mental health issues than any trauma they ever faced overseas. It's not what we see and do, it's the lack of assistance and recovery. The lack of reliability and a cohesive plan for treatment. We keep trying to apply a rote methodology of injury assessment, emotion, pain, and abandonment. You cannot apply a unit of measure to these things. We require guidelines, and for a refreshing change, some common bloody sense. Maybe some compassion, some facilities, some clear answers, and a clear path. We were sent to fight on your behalf and wound up having to come home and fight with the very people who sent us there in the first place. It's about accountability and responsibility. Get a number that members can call when they are in need, where somebody will actually answer and be able to respond to questions about pay and health care, not one to suggest MAID or to pass off vets to yet another bureaucracy. We cannot end this by only looking at VAC. However, if you, the people who are elected to be servants of your nation, decide to be biased towards action and leadership rather than simply closing the books on yet another long-winded, myopic committee meeting with sunshiny platitudes, then we can start a change. But we've seen enough of that. It's not shocking that we lose so many along the way because few fights are ever won alone. So please, not for me, but for those who come after me, those who served with me, and those who we've lost along the way, for once, become our allies. While I eagerly await your questions, I have some for you. I wonder what the logic has been in the application of things like Manulife and PCVRS to this system, rather than it being coordinated by Veterans Affairs. It's the government that sent us into harm's way. It is their duty to look after those who went. Here am I, send me, was what we said. So please explain to me how we gave a non-competitive contract to the Loblaws family to set up PCVRS to lay over thousands and thousands of more sheets of administrative miasma for veterans to wade through. Thank you. God bless our veterans, our fallen, and their families. I was blessed to be able to stand on the shoulders of heroes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hynes. For 5 minutes, Mrs. Rose.
It's hard to speak after that. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Diane Rose. I'm the Director of Military Sexual Trauma for the United Federation of Canadian Veterans, and I am the founder of Canadian Survivors of MST, a peer support and advocacy group active for more than 15 years. Together, our networks represent the voice of over 8,000 veterans and many more organizations. The Federation stands shoulder to shoulder with all veterans in need. It exists to give voice to those silenced or left behind. Most of what we do is quiet, unseen work, helping veterans to survive another day, but not every veteran does survive another day. We already know the statistics. Women veterans are at higher risk of suicide than male veterans or civilian women. The male veterans are higher risk than civilian men. So instead of offering you more numbers, I'll speak from lived experience. Too often we only learn of another loss when we see a familiar name in the obituaries. Less than a month ago, a veteran was found dead in the woods a short distance from a base where she once worked. She had loved her job until she was raped by a fellow member. The trauma that followed and the way she was treated by the military afterward forced her into taking a medical release. When she left the military, she didn't have stable housing, family supports, or a VAC case manager. A year and a half later, she died alone. She was only 35. I was the one that identified her body. I've heard from government-funded researchers say you can't just walk down the street and find a woman veteran who's experienced homelessness. Yet that's exactly what we do. One of our members saw her sitting outside of the Tim Hortons. Instead of walking by, I stopped and sat down and talked to her and gave her my business card. When the police found her body, that card was still in her pocket. And she didn't die because she was weak. She died because she had been made invisible by a system not built with her in mind. When veterans reach out for help, they're far often told, here's a 1-800 number you can call. But if you're at the end of your rope, you don't need a number that puts you on hold. You need a real human being that says, stay on the line, I am coming. Federation members do that type of work every day as volunteers, driving for hours, using our own money, answering late-night messages from people who don't think they can make it until morning. We don't do it for awards or grants. We do it because we're taught you don't leave people behind. From the front lines, we see too many support programs that are still designed by civilians or senior male officers that assume all veterans in crisis are men. But more and more of us are not men. Women in the junior ranks still routinely face gaslighting, tone-deaf policy when we speak our truth. The institutional silencing makes us invisible, and invisibility kills. Suicide prevention isn't just about mental health. It's about trust, transition, and belonging. Veterans need trauma and violence-informed, gender-responsive care, not more forms, backlogs, and wait lists. The Federation's message to the committee today is simple. We can do better, and we must. Many solutions already exist from your own reports. Invisible No More Experiences of Canadian Women Veterans, tabled on June 12, 2024. We ask government to implement its 42 recommendations, especially those on homeless MST, and gender-responsive health care. When a veteran dies by suicide, it's not because one system failed, it's because every system has failed. RCMP, D&D, CAF, VAC, and community supports almost share in the responsibility for these failures. One day I hope that VAC will have evolved into a system centered on the veteran, not the bureaucrat. Maybe then we can all stop reading so many obituaries for people who should still be alive with us today. I have several additional recommendations I would be pleased to share during questions. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking this issue seriously. I've attached the top 10 recommendations very quickly. VAC, to push the list of consequential conditions. Veterans shouldn't have to guess what conditions are linked to their service. Transparency would relieve time, stress, and lives. Ungag and properly fund Women Veterans Advisory Council. Let those women representing us actually talk to us. Trust can't grow in silence. Make transition units mandatory for all releases. Suicide prevention starts before the release, not after the uniform comes off. Train VAC to speak veteran. Military communication can sound blunt or emotional. Don't mistake my trauma for attitude. Require mental health first aid, veteran edition. Not what you're getting from these university students that don't know what they're talking about. Every VAC staff member should know how to respond safely when a veteran says they're not okay. VAC should tell the truth about wait times. Count from the day a veteran applies, not when VAC finishes processing. Honesty builds trust. Add MST to the transition process. Military sexual trauma must be a standard part of every transition review, not an afterthought. Build women veteran health into policy. Women's bodies, pain, and trauma responses are different. Healthcare must reflect that. Create safe women-only recovery programs with qualified staff and national standards. Mixed gender facilities have failed to protect women veterans. Safety must come first. I have a lot to say on that. Launch an independent review about the effectiveness of SMSRC for veterans. As a minimum, government needs to complete Schedule L of the CAF D&D sexual misconduct class action and act on the recommendations of Invisible No More report. The government agreed to both. Start implementing before more veterans die waiting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rose. We will start our round of questions with 6 minutes. Mr. Richards.
Thank you. It was Miss Rose that mentioned it here, but in the first panel, someone, I think it was Miss Gauthier, said the exact same thing. You know, in the military, when you serve, you leave no one behind. And the implication, of course, in the statement that was made in both cases was that, you know, our government has asked each and every one of you and all of those like you who are veterans in this country to go and serve our country. And you did it willingly. You wanted to do it. You were proud to do it. But then the government didn't keep its part of the bargain. It's not there to serve you when you need it. And that saddens me. And then to hear the kinds of things we're hearing today saddens me even more. So I think I'd like to start perhaps with you, Mr. Hynes, if I can. You mentioned, wait times in 2006, about 2 to 3 months. And I think you said a year, about 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, about 1.5 to 2 years now. I've heard some veterans say they've got ongoing issues beyond that. Part of the difficulty is that as you apply, there's no common sense written into it. For example, if I have had my hip shattered, well, they don't think ahead that I may have lower back issues or knee problems. If I have my lower leg blown off, they don't think, oh, maybe I'll need a different kind of footwear. So it becomes a litany of going through the VAC application process for every follow-on condition that is a result of the original one. So, that in itself adds an incredible burden. When I was when I was told by the doctor that I was being recommended for medical release, I sought the advice of others that had gone through it, and they told me, well, don't. I said, what am I going to do? And they said, don't worry. Your new full-time job is your medical release. The amount of paperwork, the number of appointments, the number of phone calls, and I have to be very honest with you, sir. It really impacted, especially for me. Like I can be an ass when I'm forced to be. I'm bullheaded. One of my psychologists once said that I had a physically unhealthy level of determination, which is great. That's what got me to where I got my career, which I'm very, very proud of. However, it also got me to the point that this system was so painful and so hard on my mental health that I walked away from it for almost a year. I'm not the most connected guy in the world. I do the advocacy that I can. I encourage staying in touch with your fellow veterans.
If I can interrupt you, you told us a story that took a lot of courage to tell us.
Thank you.
How much do you think that what you just described contributed to that?
Too much. Too much. I was lost. Yeah. There's no support. It's here, fill out this paper. Okay, now fill out these other 400 papers. Yeah, we can't help you till you get this appointment. Like I said, I went to the emergency emergency mental health clinic here in Ottawa, which is over an hour from my house, and got there and they were closed for COVID. Yeah. Oh, we didn't close the emergency centers, did we? Were emergency centers at hospitals closed? No, but we closed the emergency mental health center. To me, mental health is part of healthcare. I thought that's what the mantra was. Apparently, I was mistaken.
Yeah. And maybe can I just speak for a minute too? Like, obviously, you were able to fight through it. You mentioned the spirit within you.
Through a miracle,
yeah.
And through, quite honestly, the support and love of my family. Every couple of weeks with the advocacy that I have, the number of people that I worked with and taught throughout my career, I would say an average of every 10 to 20 days, I hear about another veteran suicide.
Yeah. That's what I was just about to ask you was, do you believe there's people out there? I mean, I've heard stories as well, right? But that are not able to fight through it and never get the help they need, and in some cases end up dead as a result.
100%, and I'll tell you one of the most shocking and horrific parts of this, from one friend of mine from Canadian Special Operations Forces that sadly lost the battle with his demons. They launched this big investigation, and then they say that this guy, handsome, good-looking, smart, crazy fit, great career, amazing family, beautiful kids, all the rest. Oh no, well, his mental health degradation and his eventual suicide had nothing to do with military service. Now, what leg does the family have to stand on to fight that? Yeah. I'll tell you another sad part of this as well, from my own family's experience. When the veteran dies, if there are outstanding Veterans Affairs claims, the spouse wants to see those through, they start back at zero. Because there is no access given to that Veterans Affairs files or their medical files. Confidentiality. Again, it's not hard. I'll throw down the gauntlet right now. You want to pay me $100,000 a year, I'll run VAC. I won't even ask for any performance bonuses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hynes. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Mrs. Ertl for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Ms. Hill-Rose, I'm wondering if you could tell me a bit about the supports and therapies that you're using and with veterans, and how I'm new and how that is helping individuals.
None, because they won't approve me.
None?
I've been waiting 14 years for approval, and because I'm an advocate and because I tell the truth, I am one of these people who has been attacked followed by the little black car. My claims are denied constantly, and to the point where I'm just, I don't even know what to say anymore. And suicide, yeah, I've had half a dozen of those attempts.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with that. Can you tell me then a bit about your organization and the work that you can do?
We every day we're dealing with phone calls. I had a phone call this morning, and it was a woman in British Columbia who hadn't slept at all. British Columbia is removing her opioid pain medication, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And she was fairly suicidal this morning when I spoke to her. And I was able to contact a bunch of people out west, a couple of people in Ontario. We activate the team. We activate the other advocates, and they are right there, and they are getting it done and making the phone calls and getting boots on the ground at that person's house right now. A lot of times we can have boots on the ground within 2 hours at the person's house, because 911ing them is not an option. If, in my case, I was gang raped by 5 men while I was in the military, do you know what that looks like when uniforms come running towards me? It's not pretty, believe me. But this is what we do, and we help with forms, we talk to people, we advocate. I know Blake there's gotten several emails in the last couple days from Federation members saying, make sure this gets added, because we are passionate about what we do. We actually have one of our women over here who's done extensive research on chemicals on military bases. I'm blessed. I am so grateful to have these sisters who support me every day.
That is fortunate. We women get things done, don't we? No offense to the men. You mentioned that there were over 8,000, you were the voice of over 8,000 veterans, I believe, yes, in the Federation. So are all of those veterans, are they working within the organization, or is there a small group that's kind of directing activities? How does the work get done? How do you mobilize these folks?
Most veterans in our group are silent because of the suffering. They can't talk. They don't want to talk. They're afraid to talk. And then you get a message in the middle of the night, hey, if you got a minute. I always have a minute at 3 a.m. Always. And this is when we do our talking and our business. And this is when we're helping. Diane, I've watched you say this for so many years, and I'm finally coming forward because I need help. And it takes a long time. I was at Simver last week on Monday. I didn't pay to get in there, and I got in there just by going up the elevator. Folks, act like you belong. And I went through, and I handed out my business card. About 70 of them. SMSRC was there. Atlas was there. Veterans Affairs was there. They all had their booths. 9 o'clock the next morning, when I checked my email, I had 9 emails. I got your business card. I was raped in the military. I'm finally coming out. I need help. What do I do? I am here for you, sister. I am here. Listen, I am here. Talk to me.
Thank you. I spent the summer visiting all the legions in my riding. I have 14. And I heard a lot about gaps that have been identified in the continuity of care for military families. How do organizations like yours and the Legion and any others best serve veterans or their families when they're facing these kind of crises?
A lot of times it's just us doing the contact. When they contact us and say, we need help, I can get you to a psychologist within 24 hours. We have some excellent psychologists that work with us. They will do free services because they know what we're doing. They know that what they do when they step up out of the box, that they are saving life. They know that. They work with us all the time. We work with service officers across Canada. There are some really good service officers in Canada that are really helping. We go to Vets Canada. Vets Canada helps right off the bat. Deb is always there, God bless her. 3 a.m, Deb, got a homeless one. Let's get her done. These are people who, and Deb's not getting funded. None of us are getting funded. And all these organizations who are getting all the funds, where are you at 3 a.m. when I need help? Your research, don't even go there. You got $250,000 to research how to tie your boots? That's basically like, come on. And then when you look at their research, they spoke to 6 veterans. 6. You couldn't find more veterans to talk to do your research? Come and see me. I know lots of veterans that would love to tell you the story. Stop. Just stop.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rose. And just before we continue, I was gently reminded, maybe for our interpretation, just to come a little forward, not too close to the mic, but just a little bit forward. So as the interpretation's happening, it is less difficult for them to hear, so they can translate in français. And on this note, Madame Gaudreau, pour 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Madame Gaudreau, you have 6 minutes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to tell you that I hear you. I acknowledge when you speak that it is justified, the anger that you experience when you appreciate or care about someone, you take care of them. And I think that, Ms. Rose, you are giving a demonstration not only of the esteem you have toward sisters or former sisters, but that you are taking direct action. And I say this, keeping in mind what I did early in my career. I was a worker in suicide prevention, and also for all of those who had drug dependency issues or addiction and frontline assistance. People need to be answered, or they need a response right then. They're prepared to reveal whatever it might be. And what I understand, subcontracting, the use of medication, too many psychotropic drugs, is so they're trying to smother people's personality. So I would like to have all your recommendations. Thank you, Ms. Rose. Perhaps Mr. Bennett, if you have a few aspects, maybe a few for crucial actions to change the way things are done during and after your service.
So, from my perspective, this is a human problem. It isn't a First Nations problem. It isn't a woman's problem. It's not a male's problem. It's a human problem. And quite often, the people that have something to say don't get asked to speak, and quite often the people that are speaking don't have time for the response. As far as the methods of helping people, each case is individual, but it seems like the fixes are for the masses. I was at the Center for Trauma in the Atlantic provinces. I spent 7 weeks there. Because I didn't have drug and alcohol issues, those that did stayed 9 weeks. 9 weeks might help take a person in a better direction, but it's not enough for a follow-up. And we did weekly online with different groups, but that's online. That's, to me, I'm not there. It's like a phone line when you're desperate. When I'm desperate, I'm not going to make a phone call. Most people don't. Some do. And maybe it does help some. But I believe for the majority, a phone call to a stranger is the last thing maybe that they want to do. I expressed earlier about drugs. For those that become dependent on marijuana, maybe for those individuals, it is helping save their lives. But eventually, I don't think it's best for the long term. It's not a fix, you know? I mean, the old adage, you can put lipstick on a pig.
I wonder how they interpreted that.
It might look pretty, but it's still a pig.
Okay. Woo! Non, je vous remercie beaucoup. Et
Thank you very much. And we have to laugh a bit in spite of everything, because you have to see some light at the end of the tunnel. And thank you for sharing your story. There's a bit of time left. Mr. Hynes, what do you think about the recommendations of your colleagues?
I think we need to humanize it. And I find it interesting. My friend here used the term boots on the ground. All that the federal government seems to have funded is administrators. Where's the boots on the ground? Where is the bias in favor of action instead of administration? Maybe we have to put aside the paperwork and apply some common sense and some humanity for a change. I think what Kenneth said was brilliant. I agree 100%. And I know that it's very rare for an individual who's got suicidal ideation. Moving it rapidly towards action is very rare for them to present themselves seeking assistance. It's even more rare for them to do it twice. And when we're just administering them and taking the odd phone call, that's exactly what we're asking them to do. I don't understand how we can have, billions of dollars being, for lack of a better term, pissed away left, right, and center, but we can't throw somebody in a car and have them respond to somebody's residence when it's a life or death situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hynes. I will invite Mr. Ruff for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So look, I'll just share because I know there's some new faces and maybe not all the witnesses. I'm coming from the same position many of you are, 25 years in the Canadian Armed Forces with the Royal Canadian Regiment as an infantry officer, 2 tours in Bosnia, 2 in Afghanistan, and 1 in Iraq. So I'm not going to thank you for your service. I know you're appreciated, and thank you. I am going to thank you for your advocacy and for speaking truth to power and being here and sharing your stories. With much of the testimony I've heard today, I'm not disappointed or shocked. As some of my colleagues have said, I'm pissed off because it's frustrating that we have not cracked this yet. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. They're all pretty much yes, no, or pretty straightforward. But what I think's been consistent with all the testimony today is 3 things that I think need to be worked upon. And so I'll just ask you to agree or disagree. If you disagree, let me know why. The first question is, it's too bureaucratic. The support within Veterans Affairs Canada is too bureaucratic for veterans. Number 2, we're facing a lack of data or tracking associated with veterans in this country, right across, and that's at all levels of government, I would argue. And finally, we need to have a system that's better tailored when it comes to, specifically with mental health support that's tailored to veterans. It's not as much as mental health crosses all spectrums of society. Everybody's facing challenges. It's at the same time not specific. So that's sort of the first sort of thing. Do you agree or disagree that those are three consistent messages? The second question I want to ask, which kind of in two parts, is do you believe that the government of Canada and this country has a sacred obligation to care for veterans and their families throughout their lives by allowing them to maintain a quality of life that is worthy of the sacrifices that they have made for Canada? So, yes, do you agree with that statement? And then secondly, is the government of Canada currently living up to that commitment? And my final question is that we've heard from your testimony here, which has been phenomenal. There's more people in this room that could testify. There is literally thousands of veterans across the country that could testify. Do you think it would be beneficial to, as you said, Mr. Hynes, to humanize the study here, make people understand the impact of suicide and challenges that our veterans face by having more witnesses appear to share their stories? So those are the three questions. I'll just go in order. And if you need me to repeat any of them, but Mr. Bennett, so the first one around sort of the observations.
First question, yes, yes, and yes. Second question, no.
So do you believe that the government should and the country does have that obligation, but you don't think the government's doing it currently?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the third thing, and
About witnesses.
well, I think that, sorry, it takes me a while. I have to think about things. But maybe the solution is with us, those that are suffering the most, and watch others suffer. You know, maybe the solution is for us where we were so close to it and lived it ourselves. And we're still here to talk about it, you know? And maybe we know a little bit more of the story of those that were closest to us that did commit suicide, and we spoke to their families, and we knew them, and we knew their heart.
So I think that you're agreeing with what I said there, Mr. Bennett, that we should be having more people sharing this that understand what you've gone through. And
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
I only got a few,
Thank you.
45 seconds. Mr. Hynes, your take on it?
I agree with everything that you said across the board, and I think that not only has the government abdicated their responsibility, there's a severe lack of accountability. We've had, 9 Veterans Affairs ministers in the last 6 years? Seems to have no gravitas, no importance to them, and I'll tell you why. It's because the people of Canada haven't made it a hot-button issue. So right now I call on the people of Canada to rise up against these megalomaniac demagogues and tell them what's important. Furthermore, I'll encourage veterans and first responders, run for office. We need fewer of these bankers and dilettantes, more people like Mr. Ruff who've gotten their hands dirty and calloused doing the bidding of their government.
Thank you very much. Out of respect, Mrs. Rose, and I apologize because, again, as I said to you, I have the bad role of this, and I want to make sure everyone gets to ask their question. I'm sure Madame Gaudreau will have question. Mrs. Rose, 15 seconds, 20 seconds to answer the questions of Mr. Ruff.
I agree with these two fine gentlemen right beside me here. And I want you to know that we are right now rewriting Bill, is it C-11, on the justice for the military. We're rewriting it as veterans because you guys whoever's rewritten it doesn't know what they're doing. So we're rewriting it for you. We're getting the job done. And we will present it to you. We will present it to you.
Mr. Casey for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bennett, I'd like you to tell us a bit about the Eagle staff. your role in it, its significance, and if there's any symbolism that we can take away from that experience that would be relevant either to this study or to the work that we're doing. I'd like you to talk a bit more about that. I'd like to have it on the record, please.
Is this Eagle staff?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know you knew about that. So, I was one of the creators of that Eagle staff, just one of them, but it represents all Indigenous peoples that serve and the families and communities that they serve from. And it's become a symbol. It's been used many places in the world, not just in the country. I was also one of the original keepers and carriers of that Eagle staff. And it brings a lot of pride, but no different than any other group or any other nationality that has the opportunity that wasn't afforded to us before. I believe that Eagle staff was unveiled in 2000, somewhere around 2000, maybe 99. But yeah, before that, the country wasn't ready for it. The Canadian Forces wasn't ready for it, and since then it's taken on an importance, not and a pride, not just within the Indigenous population in the service, but everyone, I believe, and I'm so proud of that. I believe that those type of freedoms and opportunities to show your pride in not just what you've become, but who you are, is so healthy for many peoples everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll cede my time to Mr. Clare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for explaining that work that you did. That's much appreciated. One of the things we are into, perhaps meeting 6 or 7, I'm not sure, on this study. One of the things that has stuck with me ever since it was mentioned earlier was that the suicide rate among veterans has essentially been the same for the last 50 years, since 1975. Is what we were told in an earlier. Now, what my question is, obviously the world has changed a lot since that time. Technology, communications, on, and yet this is an issue that persists. So, similar to some of the questions that Mr. Ruff may have asked, if there is one thing, and I know it's hard to go down to one thing, if there's one thing that you would leave with us as committee members as we start to think about putting this report together and recommendations to go to government, what would be the one thing you would want to leave us with from your testimony today that we can put into practice to turn the tide on that issue and start to move it in the right direction? So if I could, perhaps Mr. Bennett, then Mr. Hynes, then Ms. Rose. Thank you.
So one thing is really, really hard when things are just in my mind. You know, there's probably 10 right now. Yeah. But maybe one that I could, that might be a greater catch would be bring back veterans hospitals. I've been retired for 14 and a half years next month, and I still can't get a family doctor.
Yeah, we have heard that as well in previous meetings. Yeah.
But if there was veterans hospitals, it would take care of a lot of the homeless. It would take care of a lot of the people that are having mental issues and PTSD, physical issues, which normally you'll find goes hand in hand, the mental and the physical.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hynes?
I'll echo everything that Mr. Bennett said, and I'll remind him of a word that he used earlier, was applying some humanity to it. And I feel that with his suggestion of opening up veterans clinics or veterans hospitals, and even if we need to work with private providers as well, that's great. Whatever needs to do to get the job done, but I think that taking his suggestion would put some humanity back in the system.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Ms. Rose?
I fully agree. Believe us. Believe us. Quit treating us like liars. We need a place to go that's safe. We can't go to these rehab centers where we're going to be raped again. I have 4 women on my lines who were raped within the past year at a rehab center. we need a safe place to go where we're listened to, where we're believed. My brother's here.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Madame Gaudreau, 2 minutes et demie.
MP Gaudreau, you have 2.5 minutes, and that'll be the end. After that, we've stretched it a little longer. I hope that that's okay with everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Rose, I'm really moved by everything that can happen to women when it comes to sexual assault. And I have a question because we're looking for data too. Are you aware of the stigma and the issues of assault for the LGBTQ2S plus community? And could you please speak to me briefly about that?
We can't come up with real numbers and real statistics. When somebody calls me at 3 o'clock in the morning at CFB Petawawa and says a woman just got raped in the field, help, and they're not going to the chain of command and they're not going to the medical system or anywhere else, they call me. I got this call, and I had to drive this woman all the way to Ottawa to the Royal to get help. So that's, and the word is, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. And they say, I don't want to go through what you went through. And I tell them, don't report. It was, if I hear this all the time. If I had just been raped, I would have been fine. But it was everything that came after that. It was the systematic stuff that we had to put up with that caused the issues. Sanctuary trauma, moral trauma. It's just, when I keep saying stop doing this, I don't know. I know women who were kicked out of the military because they played baseball. You must be a lesbian and we will rape you straight. I hear this all the time. I hear it today. 20 years ago, I wasn't okay with it, but but today, why am I still hearing this today?
Merci beaucoup. J'aimerais.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank our witnesses for your testimony. Thank you.